Don't start recording, not streaming. That would have been funny. I always ended up on Twitch. Right, I'm ready.
All right. So, Rob, do you want to introduce us first, so that anyone who's listening to this broadcast knows what the concept is?
Introduce us?
Yeah, collectively, not just yourself.
I don't refer to myself as us, to be fair. So, sure. I feel like everyone in the league knows us already, or Jonny very well.
I haven't had much responses from Lucas Christie to any of my my recent attempts to make contact.
Who has?
No one has.
I am the manager of the Heart Throbs. My good friend Lucas here is the manager of the Morans. And my brother Jonny is the manager of the Heart Hogs. There we are.
Is that three 2-time playoff sides, would we say?
It is, yeah. It is.
Are you 2-time playoff?
Yeah, mate, yeah.
Miraculously. If you go back to the inaugural season, Lucas was
the best team
powerhouse.
In the first year.
And I'd resigned myself to an early
drafted
loss.
whoever at the top of the board.
Yeah, it worked.
Lucas had I think quite a shock loss to my lads, because I think Stafford went off in the playoffs.
Yeah, Jamar Chase had like his best game of the year against me, I believe.
That was the one.
That was fun.
And then never looked back.
Yeah.
So when I said introduce us, Rob, I think I more kind of meant introduce the concept of what we're doing. So for any of the league members who has no idea what's going on, the three of us decided that we'd try and put out a brief review this week, and then if it goes well, then see if we can do it each week, just reflecting on the results, what's been happening in the league, what's been happening in the wider NFL. Try and keep it fairly brief, so it's tolerable to listen to, and see where we go from there. So, I think probably the best place to start is with the division that comes up first for me on Sleeper, so the Earth Division. And the games, the intra-divisional games in the Earth Division were. Shall we start with your lads, Rob? So tell us, how did it feel losing 78 points to the Greenwood Grenadiers 113? So that was a bounce back victory for the Grenadiers after a disappointing week one. How did it feel, Rob?
It wasn't great, in fairness. Not an ideal week of football for me. Trevor Lawrence decided that he actually doesn't want to throw touchdowns anymore, which was nice, which is cool. I'm enjoying that development from him as a player. And then I got a little bit of a brief glimmer of hope as Saquon Barkley became the Giants' offense as they staged a big comeback. But then his ankle decided to disintegrate, which wasn't ideal as well. So I'm facing a few weeks without him. Just all around shite is what I'd say.
I didn't actually see that. I didn't see the game this week. Did he? Was it treading on a defensive player like last time that he did his ankle?
I actually can't remember. How he did it. I think it was just.
I don't remember either. I think I remember he sort of waddled off. So it wasn't, but I don't think it really anyone really noticed at first. It suddenly just cut to him sat on the cart having a paddy. Yeah, he wasn't.
Can we comment at this point in time the fact that running backs generally do kind of walk with a bit of a waddle, don't they?
They're just so massive.
Well, they're quite stout.
They can't walk.
They walk like sort of secondary school rugby coaches.
Are there any running backs that, if there was a running back who walked normally, who do you think it would be?
James Conner. He's quite tall, isn't he? So he's probably a bit more in proportion.
Is he that tall? James Conner's not
chronically injured. I'd say maybe Tony Pollard, because he's quite skinny, isn't he?
I'd say just Derrick Henry walks fairly normally because he's huge, but he's in proportion. No, but he's kind of in proportion. He doesn't really waddle. He strides.
So Connor's quite tall.
Maybe. Talking of people waddling, I mean, Rob, you've actually had a bit of a double down on the running back injuries this week because David Montgomery
I would like rotated.
To say
in
Like a
general,
Mr. Potato Man character.
at the end of the game week, I took a look at my team and I saw arguably my 3 best running backs all had questionable next to their name, which was not ideal. Travis Etienne had cramps at the end of his game, which poor Travis, but he should be back for the next game. Yeah,
Well,
Montgomery looks like he's out. Dalvin Cook just isn't really doing anything, but Brian Robinson has started incredibly well.
It's amazing what you can do if you haven't recently been shot, isn't it?
Yeah. yeah. He's been doing very well. I mean, I haven't benefited from it, so yeah. But I'm excited to put him into the lineup next week. Hopefully, Christian Watson decides to play football as well, and then I might have a bit of a team to field against Lucas. I would say Miles had a good game week, considering several of his players are still underperforming. I'd say.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs and Stephon Diggs haven't had the lightning fast start to the season that you'd expect from them.
Jacobs has been against really tough defenses, hasn't he? And he's getting the volume, so he's going to bounce back.
And clearly, next week, Miles will make the correct decision to start the highest scoring quarterback, which is Daniel Jones.
And not the
he was the
QB,
highest scoring QB this
one
week
for like the last.
was Daniel Jones.
I mean, I'm sure he was, but
I actually think the QB1 in fantasy at the minute, and this is going to be throwing forward to reviewing another matchup later, but I think it's Kirk Cousins. I heard that.
Yeah, it is. It is. You said
which
that.
Is
it is
bonkers. But a couple of things that I think we should comment on for Miles' team, because I know he was looking to strengthen his wide receiver core with some other kind of star talent behind Stephon Diggs at the end of the summer. Deebo Samuel performed well last week, so it looks like Kittle's maybe fading a little bit for the Niners, and those 2 wide receivers there are stepping forward. But I'll be interested to know what you guys think. Zay Flowers has looked brilliant for the Ravens. It looks like they built their new offense around him. What do you think?
He's really, really good. Like, it's just he might. I mean, if he's already succeeded Bateman as the one, which you see when he has, like
he has been playing very well. Yeah. I almost think it's a case of other receivers just doing nothing, as opposed to Zay Flowers being incredible, because just the level of targets he's getting isn't normal for this early in a career, unless you're called Puka Nacua. But we'll
obviously.
No, but it looks like they've been designing these plays for him, because it's not plays that there's another receiver they have who would be doing that. You know, it's stuff that's very specific to his skill set. That's what would really encourage me if I was to say Flowers.
He's definitely going to.
And I think we should also mention that Miles, obviously suffering a second devastating injury he suffered to J.K. Dobbins right at the start of the season last week. And whilst the Nick Chubb injury, which we'll touch on later, is obviously awful, that if there was anyone who had to benefit from it, I think it's probably there's something kind of reassuring about the fact that bit of luck with Jerome Ford has benefited Miles.
I tried to claim him the same week and Miles got it. That was the last week before we had Fab introduced. I think I would have put quite a bit of Fab on trying to get Jerome Ford as well. But
I tell you what, if you guys move on to the new topic of the matchup between Lucas and Aiden, I'm going to jump back in the chat, because I'm pretty sure I'll be able to find who you chose to use your waiver priority move on, Lucas. That meant that you.
No, but I'm almost certain I would have been like 12th in waivers. So I claim someone every week, so I always get shunted back to the back of the queue. Yeah.
Let's see who the latest one.
Moving on to your team, though, Lucas.
Of course. I mean,
I've got 2 questions.
Go ahead.
Firstly, Deshaun Watson. Thoughts?
I mean, it's quite clear from the fact that I've spent my week on holiday in Italy trying to find someone to play instead of him. That the fact that I wasn't best pleased with his performance.
Which you have done.
Which I have done. Yeah, Geno Smith. I mean, like, he's not the best player in the world, but like, it's like at least I can now choose who I want to play between him and Watson week to week. Like, if someone's got a good matchup, I can just play them. But I did stay up and watch the game, which is obviously an hour ahead in Europe than it was. So it started at 2:15 in the morning, and it was like a car crash. I couldn't really stop looking away. I couldn't look away even because like I was just there like he'll get some points at some point because obviously I had Njoku and Garrett also playing, and the annoying thing was that I needed Watson, Njoku and Garrett to outscore Najee Harris by 20-ish points, and Harris was getting absolutely nothing done. So they were being given absolutely every chance to do it, but they were just not good enough. No, I mean no offense really occurred on Monday Night Football, either of the games. So apart from George
Quality
Pickens,
from the
obviously,
NFL, picking them.
yeah,
I mean, we
the
need to
matchup
mention
watch.
George Pickens because
he has been
we'll
flying.
probably touch on it later. But it was bizarre because having watched that, I'm actually not going to lie. I thought it was pretty terrible defensive play with the Browns that led to his long touchdown. But it was weird because the Browns looked so good the rest of the time. But both of the first two games, their defense looked absolutely elite.
Oh, sorry, just a little. The Athletic, Andy Dalton could start v Seattle for the Panthers. Just so everyone should know. Apparently, Bryce Young's
Right.
got a knee injury. He's not playing. He's not practicing at the moment. Little
By the way,
We've
hot
decided
off the press.
maybe we shouldn't
I've
put
I've
our rookie number 1 pick straight into just throw into the dogs immediately. Maybe we should
I've
let him sit for
also
a bit.
I've found the waiver move which put you below Miles in waivers, Lucas, and it was your desperation to drop the Jets defense and pick up the Jaguars defense. Hopefully
Oh
that
Big move.
but anyway, yeah. So
You don't want the Jets defense. That's awful. Who would want that?
So yeah, we've touched on it, but essentially, yeah, the POM Power Rangers making a massive comeback, and I think it might have been their first week win in 6 or 7 matchups. They obviously lost both of their wooden spoon competitions at the contests at the end of last year, and they won 112-96 over the Morans. And to be honest, it could have been more if Richardson hadn't.
Yeah,
left the game halfway
when I
through,
saw
didn't he?
him running 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, I thought this would get pretty ugly. And not that I celebrate injuries for the people involved, but for my fantasy team was definitely benefited a lot from embarrassment. The fact that he did have to leave very early on.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Would either of you guys trade for Richardson?
If I was Aiden, I would not be trading him away.
No, it's like.
But
he'll be
obviously
okay.
he's played 2 games and gotten injured twice.
Well,
so.
the issue is like obviously they keep doing this. I mean, obviously it's great to have a rushing quarterback, but literally game 2, he's got a concussion doing exactly that, which is just scary because it's just like, well, we saw it with Lamar as well. He got injured quite a lot. He's obviously a brilliant fantasy player when he's playing. But
I'm saying this. I'm rolling with Josh Allen, who absolutely loves to drop the shoulder.
Yeah. At least
Richardson's
injuries have looked.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like Richardson wants to get concussions, which I think sometimes it looks like Josh Allen wants to happen.
In terms of other stuff on Aiden's side, I mean, it feels like ages ago now, but I think we have to comment on the revival of DeAndre Swift, who
he had a bit of a game, didn't
the
he?
poor lad was despairing over. But he's had a massive game back there, so it'll be interesting to see whether he keeps it going moving forward. Do you reckon he will?
I mean, I'll be pretty upset.
I feel he will.
If he does it only against me, but I think he will because it's quite clear he's the one. It's seemingly over Penny in Philly, and they're going to be in the red zone all the time, and obviously he's going to get like opportunities to score taken off him by the fact they've got a lot of other options in Goddard, Smith, Brown, and obviously if they're ever at the 1, he's not getting the ball. They're just going to push it. But with Hurts, but obviously Minnesota had no answer, but I don't think that. I'm not sure that's just Minnesota, but if he can stay in that role throughout the season, why did he only get 1 attempt against New England in Week 1? Was he injured or what actually happened?
I don't know. It felt like maybe it was just that Gainwell was rolling quite well, and it was a fairly close game. So maybe they just felt they didn't want to throw a new person in there.
Yeah, he was
on the field. It is worth saying at the end of game 1, Nick Sirianni in an interview said that he doesn't want there to be another game this season where DeAndre Swift only gets 1 or like doesn't really get any work at all. He doesn't want
they
that
say
to
this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but like it's fairly. I feel like it is notable that pretty much the first thing he said was about DeAndre Swift and wanting to get him more involved.
Yeah,
Gainwell will be a factor going forwards, but Swift should
be
the highest scorer in this.
That's offense. I agree. I think he'll definitely be should be more reliable for the Power Rangers moving forward. The other one I reckon we should touch on out of his lot is actually on the bench, Roshan Johnson, who I know Aiden had said he was tempted to start up until Gamewell was declared out, and he is looking like he could potentially take over that Bears backfield.
He's already the
He's
two.
looking very good.
No, he's a really good player, and everyone was basically just saying spent the entirety of camp just saying how good he is. Like, and he was taken in the 4th round, I want to say, he fell a bit actually in the draft. But he's also on special teams quite a lot as well, so he could get injured doing that. But he's a very different kind of back to Khalil Herbert, because Khalil Herbert's not as good at pass protection as Roshan Johnson is. So he's one of those players that might just get on the field by virtue of other utilities he possesses that aren't just running the football. But I think if it comes, he'll get better and better fantasy wise as the season goes on, and I think like maybe next season, like he may take over from Herbert as the one, because Herbert's good, but it could. I don't know. I'm saying this, but a lot of the backfields this year have become 60-40 committees. It seems that weren't expected to be.
So talking of that and talking to players getting on the field because they're good at pass protection or receiving work. How do you feel about Kyron Williams becoming the undisputed RB1 of the Rams?
I mean,
the rejuvenated Rams offense.
I mean, I always pride myself on being able to find these random guys, but I'll be honest with you, I had absolutely no clue Kyron Williams beat anyone in this game. there was no I just had a roster spot, and I click on him, and it's like, oh, Kyron Williams could have an increased role, and it's like, yeah, why not? And I stick him on, and then he literally week 1 has more production than Cam Akers. Week 2 he's running back 1 in a good offense, seemingly. So yeah, that was just complete lag,
Cam Akers, who has now been traded, if anyone missed that, has been traded for essentially a packet of crisps to Minnesota. I think it was they've swapped a 7th for a 6th in return for trading away.
And who has
Cam
Mattison?
Akers.
Is he going to be over Mattison, or is he going to be behind Mattison? Behind, surely.
Don't know.
I think behind.
Yeah,
I think he's got to be behind.
He'd be shocked.
Certainly start with. Lucas, I've just found a message I sent to you about a month ago in my attempts to shop Trey McBride. I just made reference to the fact that he surely must be more valuable than Kyron Williams, the Rams RB3.
That's funny.
I mean, I stand by it. If you feel Trey McBride would be more beneficial to your fantasy season,
I'll send the trade through now, mate. 1 for 1.
I don't want to spend too long praising Lucas, but I also want to have a throwback to I think just after the first claim had been made off of someone's taxi squad. I think I was talking to you, Lucas, and you said that you'd move Puka Nacua off your taxi squad because you were scared that someone was going to pick him up. And I'm fairly certain I said to you, I don't think anyone's going to want Puka Nacua.
I'd heard good things about him before the rookie draft, to be fair, and I think I was surprised he dropped to the middle of the 4th, because there were people going ahead of him.
Yes, but there's surprise about dropping to the middle of the 4th, and there's also being the league leading receptions guy.
I think so.
He is one of the best receivers in the league. You can't.
I think there's stuff to learn from this for a lot of teams, which is that teams who particularly if they've got a lot of kind of middling crap on the bench, that actually that kind of period towards the end of the summer before the season gets going, it's a really important time to try and clear some of that space, because I'm pretty sure there are teams who would have looked at some of those players on taxi squads and seen that they might have been a good value, but decided not to go for it because they're like, I've got Tyler Boyd sat at the end of my bench, or I've got Tyler Higbee sat at the end of my bench, and actually, why the hell not take a punt on someone like Puka Nacua for the cost of a 3rd, and obviously draft your own guys as well and try and get them in. There's quite a few guys this year in the 3rd and 4th who've come straight in and looked useful. Very interesting straight away.
Shout out to Brett Coleman for making me draft him. Not literally, he didn't tell me to do it, but he just said he was good. So in a video.
We should move on to keep this from getting too long. But yeah, moving on to the win division. I mean, I'm going to have to address my situation first. I'm 0-2. It's been a bad start.
Where are you in?
Um,
Where are you in scoring total? Like, what's in the first? It's 2 weeks, but
I can tell I'm looking. I've scored 182 points,
which is
which is
which
pretty
is
low. It's
is
lower than everyone in the
oh
Earth
my
division
god,
other than Aiden, and it's lower than
it's the
everyone
same
in
as
the
Ronnie.
fire
it's
division.
it's third
apart
lowest.
from Ronnie.
But you have been
It's pretty
playing
tough.
Jamar
It's pretty
Chase, who has been the biggest underperformer arguably in the
And
NFL.
Yeah,
AJ Brown and Chase.
I'm not
AJ Brown and
faithful.
Chase both have had very disappointing starts. I must say, this week I found a lot more encouraging. I was on track to win until the Steelers D pulled out. Well,
Deshaun Watson.
the Browns, Deshaun Watson pulled out an absolute, nightmare out of his ass. And I think that really I've had absolutely nothing spectacular out of my running backs yet, which, the Stevenson for the Patriots has been up against a couple of really good Ds. Jahmyr Gibbs has been eased in, and then my other guys are all returning from injury. So hopefully that will become stronger as the season moves on. And I can't imagine Chase and Brown are going to be consistently as poor as they've
I
been
would
the
be
last couple of
amazed if they
weeks.
were.
So I'm hopeful, and if I'm going to focus on anyone, I'll focus on a couple of more kind of rogue names. Jordan Love on the bench. I've been
Good
really
player, mate.
encouraged by his performances in real life.
Good player.
He's looked really solid, so he's going to be hanging around. And then I've just picked up this kicker this week called Brandon Aubrey, and I'm going to share this with you because I thought it was an interesting backstory. He's a rookie, and then when I looked at him, it suddenly said he's 28. I thought, why the hell? How is he 28 and a rookie? And you might know this already, but it's because he went through college as a footballer. I believe he was a forward, and he was drafted in the first round of the MLS draft several years back, and had a kind of a middling football career. Never quite made it. Went into college NFL instead, and then has obviously been drafted into the league. So we'll see. He's apparently set a record in that he's the first ever rookie to make all 5 of his first 5 field goal attempts. So got high hopes. High hopes that at some point soon he might get a picture on the sleeper app.
Your only issue at the moment is the fact that Dallas may not get enough field goals, might just score too much.
Well, I think that's the thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
We may never get the chance to discuss kicker scoring tactics again, but my theory with it is you basically want a team who's either, you don't want the shittest team because otherwise they never score. You want one who's shit but good enough that they get into the opponent's half, but then can't finish it off, so have to kick.
The best yardage offense, and then also
Yeah.
the worst red zone offense
Well,
combined into
or
one
you
team.
just want an offense that's so good they're going to go up massive early and then just kick out games. So like the Eagles and the Chiefs always have good kickers because of that.
Yeah.
There might be a chance that the Cowboys are going to be like that this year because they're limiting opposing teams so much in terms of scoring.
There's not many kickers you can just rely on and just keep the whole time.
Yeah.
And even then, that's why I went for Tucker, because I just know he's not going to miss many. That's why I just it means I don't have to bother streaming a kicker.
He did miss one. He did miss one.
He did miss it. I came up on red zone. I was
62
like,
yards,
money.
but he did miss it.
I was like, he did hit one later on from the same distance, so he did make up for it. But it was I was celebrating before it even been snapped when I saw that on red zone.
And moving on to the other result in the win division, this result leaving completely to everyone's shock, I guess, the Ramsey Rioters out completely on their own in front at 2-0. But the Mercer Whistleblowers beat the Bang Averages this week, 138 to 109. So it's a massive score from the Mercer Whistleblowers, led by a rejuvenated Kirk Cousins, who somehow played well in prime time. And then, to be honest, just great performances across the board. Addison's looked great to start the year.
Really encouraging players. James Cook putting in a really, really great shift. I think he's 4th in rushing yards right now in the league. He's either 4th or 5th, but he's well up there.
AJ Dillon was a bit crap, but
he was. He's actually started the season really badly. I think he's averaging about 2.5 yards a carry right now, and will need to improve quite heavily if he's going to have a relevant season.
But Keenan Allen having a great game.
I don't know how long he's going to do that though. Whenever I watch him
Well,
play, he just looks like a bit of a. He scored 2 touchdowns against the Dolphins, but like,
it's fine though, because we
What are you
know
about to say?
I don't know. He just
we
looks.
know what we know.
Just he should
We
be on
know
a
what's going
cane
to
with a
happen.
sideline.
As it gets close to the trade deadline and Lucas is teetering on the edge of playoff qualification, we know that some first round picks are going to be going Charlie's way in return for Keenan Allen to
No.
boost that wide receiver room.
Unless Puka goes
Which,
down
to
with
be
an
fair,
ACL.
I actually we need to mention this quickly. I know we talked about your team already, Lucas, but DJ Moore, man, that is
What about him?
it's very disappointing.
Well,
And actually, to be
I will
fair, we can
say,
talk about that.
He played pretty well.
real quick, right? In the same week where the QB school did their longest ever video breakdown on a quarterback, which was Justin Fields versus Tampa, it was an hour and a half long, basically just saying how shit he and the entire offense played. DJ Moore still got 100 yards, so I don't really mind. I was actually pretty pleased, like genuine. And whenever he's given the ball, he's like always good for like 10 yards in yak. So like, and he was open a lot of the time, and Fields just didn't throw him it. And then also Fields just came out at the press conference. I don't know how many people outside of Bears Twitter have seen all this, but he basically just came
I've
out.
seen.
Not he didn't slag the coaches off, but he just said he sort of implied he might be a bit overcoached to the point where he's a bit in his own head about that sort of thing. But yeah,
Was it implied? I thought it was pretty.
We didn't
pretty
say the
to
coaches have
the
made
point.
me worse, but like.
Hang on, I'm going to find the quote because I think it was pretty.
He said
pretty explicit.
Well, I think the question he was asked was, "Oh, why do you think this is actually relevant to Bates, who lost to Mercer because he obviously played Fields?
Yeah, exactly.
He's got 11 points still, but he said, "Oh, why do you think you are like being more robotic and thinking too much?" And he just went coaching, and it's like I understand why that would happen because obviously like a lot of Fields' issue before was he would turn down passing yards to run for a first down, which is obviously great, but he could probably throw for more yards than what he gets running, and then also save his body. But that it's now gone the other way where he's like holding on for the ball for too long when he could just run away and easily get a first down because he's literally the fastest player on the pitch and he's a quarterback.
I believe he's now said that he's going to return to instinct, and specifically, I think he gave a quote today where he said he's not going to think about anything before he passes it, which sounds like a
very good idea.
I mean, Luke Getsy, I will say, is I don't know, hindering him. Let's say I wanted to say something a bit more aggressive, but some of the play calls that are being like called right now, he's in shotgun all the time, like, and we're play faking the ball when it's so obvious we are just passing. So we're just doing it. It's wasting time where Fields could be looking down the field and trying to throw the ball, and it's just like there's no rhythm to the way that Fields is like being used, and the only like thing he can really do, like we're not giving him any shots down the field, like, and like it's just he's being misused. I think he'll be fine. I still think he could be really good, and obviously from fantasy as well, he's still obviously going to be pretty decent. But rather than spending too much time about the Bears, but you know,
well, going through the rest of Bates' team, I mean, Derrick Henry's great as ever. However long that will go on, it looks like it's going to last at least for most of this year. Bijan's been amazing. Jefferson's amazing. Garrett Wilson, poor guy, but he's going to find a way to be at least decent this year.
Those 4 players all scored, and he still lost the game.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because fundamentally, Bates, how well he does this year is probably going to come down to whether anyone can emerge from the kind of the extra people on the bench to be a really dependable flex, and if Kyle Pitts can finally pull his socks up and do anything.
So it's been a rough week for Bates's bench running backs. Cam Akers been traded to the Vikings, will probably be a backup. Penny is just kind of third, fourth.
I think fourth.
Option.
Austin Scott got into the game ahead of him, and Penny was inactive.
Zeke just not really running right now. So fingers crossed for Bijan and Derrick Henry to stay healthy.
Yeah, that was actually, it's worth commenting on that. For the Patriots, Stevenson got the short yardage, the red zone carries. When they were like 3 yards out, they gave it to Stevenson to run it. It's just surprising because even I'd assumed that work was going to Zeke.
you're wondering how much are they paying him again? Like, it's not
Don't
nothing.
know.
Like 4 million, 3 or 4
I mean,
million?
the way he turned up looking, he's
He's on
quite big right now.
he's on the field
Mm.
1 in 3 snaps basically. That's the
It's probably worth everyone taking note of that before they flock to, trade the Rioters a first-round pick for Kareem Hunt.
obviously.
Right, let's wrap this up. So finally, moving on to Fire Division, you've got the current kind of blazing front runner, the Cook 69ers, who absolutely flattened. Well, I mean, they've flattened everyone so far, but they flattened the Wobblers. So Jackson looking terrible in real life, but managed to have a pretty good fantasy night. McCaffrey the opposite, looking amazing in fantasy and real life. Who should we comment on here? I think maybe Mike Evans and Raheem Mostert both were.
I did not realise Mostert had been that good this week. I'm not going to lie to you. Oh my god. He was good last week as well, but 18 carries for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's got 3 touchdowns already this year. I mean, for a 31-year-old running back, that's pretty good ground. Like,
Yeah, it is.
He's the number 4 running back in the league right now.
Yeah,
which is not
I mean,
bad.
That's not a player any of us would have before the season have been like, oh
How
yeah.
long do you reckon how long till something snaps? He's very injury prone guy, isn't he? And he had a huge workload last week.
I mean,
who knows? Who knows with Mustard? It's always a matter of time, but hopefully he can keep it going. Based on his projected scores, Sleeper seems to think that in week 4 he gets injured.
I've just seen that. Yeah, 9 points next week, 9 points the week after, and then it's 6.
Yeah, they're predicting an injury against Buffalo.
Maybe they're assuming a massive performance for Jeff Wilson, because he'll be returning off IR, aren't he? Completely wrestling the backfield
quite
away,
funny, isn't it? Like, it's just everyone who plays for the Dolphins has just been about Niners running back at some point.
Looking at the Wobblers, I think it's worth noting that Justin Herbert's looked really good so far this year. So he had a bit of a down year last year, but he looks like he's back.
I do worry about him personally in the Chargers actually winning any games, but that's not really relevant for Ronnie as long as he's getting points. Because he doesn't turn the ball over ever. So. They still don't win any football games. Real shame.
Poor Damian Pierce has really been struggling, but I think that's just because the Texans O-line's had so many injuries.
Yeah, he's not been amazing.
I would say, talking about the Texans though, and Ronnie, Nico Collins is looking really good right now.
But I think this thing that they've been in games where they've been competing, but they've been chasing scorelines, so they've had to pass.
But I mean, that's very likely to continue all season.
No, it is. But I think it was the same last year, and their O-line is a good O-line. So usually Damian Pierce is going to have a bit of help getting through. I think I heard a stat which is that his yards after first contact is actually still decent. I think it's something like 5 or 6 yards after first contact. But he's been on average, his first contact is behind the line of scrimmage. So the O-line is literally giving him nothing. He's constantly being hit behind the line, and he's still managed to get something from it. So I think my message to Ronnie: don't panic on Damian Pierce. He'll come.
He should be all right.
He's also not had his best player really. But he had Kelsey this week, but he didn't do much. But like, there's no way that Kelsey's gonna stick at. He'll be scoring a lot higher in.
I don't know.
I mean, he is playing Chicago this week, so.
How many more Taylor Swift concerts are there?
That said, I mean, he's starting Sutton, and Nico Collins did look pretty encouraging, but you can't be starting Cortland Sutton and Nico Collins.
I'm just so.
I think you absolutely could be starting Nico Collins right now.
I think you can start him, but
he's by far and away the top option on an offense that is going to be throwing a lot, where the quarterback has actually looked pretty all right.
I agree, but he's also he's by far and away the best option on Ronnie's entire roster at wide receiver, which is concerning. You don't think?
Yeah, he needs JSN to really start contributing in Seattle, but they haven't really used him too much so far.
Can you start fielding Kittle as a receiver?
You throw Kittle into the flags, then that's one less thing to worry about, isn't it?
Maybe
yes.
you should offer him Hunter Renfro, Lucas.
He's a top player. God, yeah, he's next on the drop list.
I mean, Brian Robinson is embarrassing you at the minute. We didn't comment enough on that earlier.
Yeah. Nick, you may have noticed the Hunter Renfro's nickname on Sleeper right now is "This was a bad trade." So, I mean, it wasn't looking like an awful trade 3 months
looking
ago.
excellent after someone shot Brian Robinson in the leg.
Yeah, no, that's enshrined on the Wikipedia page as a notable event.
But also, you know, there's the following trade, which was equally derided at the time, of Kareem Hunt for Paris Campbell. And obviously Paris Campbell now on waivers. And as Callum keeps telling me, you know, Kareem Hunt, star running back 1 now.
I refuse to put myself through the pain of having to watch Kareem Hunt waddle towards like
on that
gains.
particular topic, the Kareem Hunt topic, we can finish with the final matchup, which was the Sweethearts edging out the Cienfuegos with a 99-81 victory.
Fraudulent.
And really, for the Cienfuegos, it just all comes down to Nick Chubb. So Nick Chubb's gone.
Nicholas.
It's not looking good, is it?
And there's serious questions. I saw this afterwards about, because of the degree of displacement in that knee, whether he would have had vascular compromise of his lower leg. And if that's the case, you know, you're talking lucky if he walks on that leg again. So fingers crossed at the minute.
Yeah. The Nick Chubb that we know is gone, definitely, without question.
It's very sad. It's very sad. And actually, you know, on the other side of the field, an equally likable character, also injured last week, Jamal Williams, who, if nobody's seen, you need to get on Sleeper and look at his profile photo, because it's
a big fan of anime, this man.
I've just seen it. He's happy.
He's a happy man. But he's also picked up a knock, so it may give an opportunity to Mike Andre Miller to have a run in that backfield. But really, I think it means that Ronnie's soon going to be getting Kamara back and Kamara up and running as a Saints League guy.
Where's Kamara's situation? Is he like actually allowed to play?
He's got one more game to miss, and they'll be back next week.
Oh, okay, I see.
And then looking at Lucas's squad, so he's got Tyreek Hill, great as ever. Amon-Ra has been epic. It does sound like he might have a turf toe, so we'll have to wait and see with that. But really, it's been a very bad week for Lucas because he's got very few running backs as it is. Chubb's out. Mattison's now got some competition in that Vikings backfield. I don't think there's anyone on the scene on the bench doing anything, so he might need to start scrapping on waivers.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who he gave up 2 first-round picks for.
True. Well, maybe he could go and make a similar offer for Kareem Hunt, because I've heard that he's, you know, heard he might be available. And then I don't know about you guys, but I think the main thing I'd remark upon in Luke's team is just that he's got a few wide receivers now who look like they're on the verge of absolute massive breakouts. Both Ayuk and Devontae Smith, who are looking extremely good.
They're looking both very good. He also has, I think it might be the third highest scoring anything in fantasy in the Cowboys defense.
I think they're top in our format because it's standard scoring.
Unbelievable.
He scored 35 last week, 16 this week. It's just absolutely insane.
Yeah, they lead the league, and it goes Dallas Cowboys, TJ Watt, Tyreek Hill, Kirk Cousins.
I did want to point out how good TJ Watt's been as well, but it's almost like
he's on Ben Kirk's team.
Par for the course, isn't it? I'm looking forward to seeing Luke start Sky Moore next week and watching him get 1 reception again.
He's playing the Bears, man.
I think the only thing that comforts me about Luke having all these amazing receivers that are likely to have really big breakout years is I know that he's definitely not going to be starting them when they're having their best weeks. All of their points are going to be scored on the bench.
Well, how long do you reckon until he gets another feeling about Sky Moore?
He bites
Honestly, next week against the Bears, I think he might have another feeling.
If any time's the time, this is the week. Like,
All right.
play it.
Oh, I think if there's any league members who ever see Luke or I don't know, stay around Luke's house or something on a Saturday night, I think it's a moral responsibility to wake up in the middle of the night and whisper the worst of his wide receiver options into his ear as he sleeps, just to get that little worm of an idea in there. I think, yeah, definitely Sky Moore, or maybe an Odell Beckham should be fired up again for another game, but we'll see.
I know Odell's nailed on this week.
I will say, if Luke's having to whip in old Odell for a game at any point, something's gone pretty wrong.
I don't know. You might get a feeling.
Definitely.
Oh dear.
Definitely. Well, and I think the one last thing I'd want to remark on here is that whilst Michael Wilson's looked decent in his first couple of games for the Cardinals, I think we always have to remember that Luke, knowing that he was going to claim a player and choosing to use a third to do it, chose to claim Michael Wilson instead of claiming Puka Nacua.
I moved Puka Nacua off the. Actually, was it the same day?
No, you moved him because
it was the Michael Wilson move that triggered you moving him.
The thing was, the rest of the league may not know this, but Luke was discussing. He's like, I think I want to trade for Michael Wilson from Greenwood. I was like, you can just take him. And he was like, oh, what? I was like, it's sort of my fault that he did do that, and I've told Miles that, but he didn't resent me for it, luckily.
He got third.
But yeah, but the thing was that now that you said that was the time I did actually move Puka Nacua off. But not everyone's on the Puka Nacua news column. Making sure they're reading everything they see.
Well, moving forward to next week, I think the key fixtures to highlight is I'm going to highlight my own. I'm playing the Mercer Whistleblowers. Massive game for me. I can't start 0-3 in my own division. That's a terrible start. And obviously I have Charlie's pick for next year, so I need to try and give him a defeat, give him a loss.
Yeah.
My fellow 0-2 team, Ronnie with his Wobblers, they're playing another 0-2 team, the Cienfuegos. So somebody's going to be 0-3. So we'll see who wins out there. Lucas, you're up against. Oh, you guys are playing each other.
Big game. I said it's a big game, but I feel like if we both, I'm not too fussed if I lose as long as I see everyone continue to play well. I just want to see a good performance, because
I would like to win. I would like Brian Robinson to have an enormous game.
Who they play? Buffalo.
DJ Moore to drop a donut.
Oh, against Kansas
DJ
City.
Moore donut.
Oh, that would be awful. That would be so bad.
And Lucas, to close us off, do you want to just give us what are your thoughts at the minute with Cooper Kupp? Are you hoping for him to come back, or are you wanting to stay away as long as possible?
That is the issue, isn't it? Because I almost want him to just it's weird. I don't want him to come back. It's weird. I don't want him to, because when he does come back, I've got a decision to make, which is, do I play both of them or cut? I can't. Can I just drop Puka for Kupp straight away? But surely Kupp will be on a snap count.
Maybe those who persevered to the end of our week's review, this is an invitation that if you want to make an offer to Lucas for Cooper Kupp.
I did actually offer that last night.
He's emotionally moved on to Puka Nacua. So
it's honestly like Toy Story, yeah? Like Cooper,
I don't want to play
Kupp is Woody. Puka is Buzz Lightyear.
It's a great analogy, actually. Wow. You may see a Puka Nacua nickname change from not only Kupp 2, but Kupp 2 Dawn of the Nugget.
And that means in this context, if Lucas is Andy, then Callum Ramsey is 100% Sid.
Definitely.
Just abusing all of his
toys. Just blowing them up.
Abominations each week.
Throwing them over the fence.
Kendrick Bourne's been dropped this week.
It's just a disaster trail of broken toy soldiers in the back garden.
Just lighting Kendrick Bourne on a rocket and sending him up.
No, 100%. It's just Desmond Ridder and Samaj P. lying broken on his bench.
God, it's
Oh,
an
wow.
awful image.
All right. 100% it is. To be fair, actually, this is the last thing I'll say is out of nowhere, Callum Ramsey's actually ended up with I feel like he's got more bench depth than lots of people, because obviously he's got the superstar that is Kareem Hunt, but he's got Zach Moss, who's currently leading the Colts backfield. He's got Amari Cooper on his bench, so it's not looking too bad.
His bench looks a lot better than some of the other ones I've looked at while we've been doing this. A lot better than Chris Dow and Bates's. Is what I'll say. Because actually, wait, we're looking at Bates is actually right there. Yeah.
Love that you didn't mention your own bench there, Lucas.
Well, my bench is obviously fantastic. You know, there's potential all over the place.
Why is Tyler Lockett? Anyway,
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah. I'm cooking something.
Right. It was a pleasure doing this with you, gents. And if the league likes it, then we can try and do a similar thing again. I think the plan was that we'll ask other people to come in for guest appearances week on week, right? So if people want to jump in at any point in time, they can. But obviously, no obligation. We'll wait and see.
To be honest, Johnny, and no, everyone could in the WhatsApp go, I hate this, never do this again, please. But I would still want us to do it because I want any excuse to talk about Dynasty.
What do you think of the chances?
He was doing this every week already.
We started recording. Yeah.
What do you think of the chances that Charlie listens to this?
I mean, I can say it really, really loudly through the wall at him.
If Charlie listens to the whole thing, gets to this point, I'll give him Trey McBride for free.
So you need him to say that to you, so he's watched all the way to the.
Also, he might still reject that. I'm not.
How good's his bench?
Right.
No, you might say
right. All right.